Hello, everybody. Eric Smith here with the first in a new series where I'm going to talk about Valancourt books, Paperbacks from Hell, reprints of old 80s, maybe some in the 70s, maybe some in the 90s. Not exactly sure, but old Paperbacks from Hell um, with introductions, mostly, I believe, the same cover artwork. Uh, anyway, so there's 21 of these out at this point, I believe, and I have all of them, and I'm going to go through all of them by the date they were put out by Valancourt. I did an introductory video that'll be the like point oh 0.05 or point 0.5 of this series. That's why I'm saying this is the first one. But anyway, what I'm talking about today is The Nest by Gregory A. Douglas. And you can see the Paperbacks from Hell logo. This has an introduction from Will Erickson, and this was originally published in 1980. So, review first nutshell, I suppose. Killer cockroaches. What else do you need to know? Um, the too long didn't watch. If you don't want to watch this whole video, I gave it 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. This is actually the second time I read this. I read it when this edition first came out, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars then. And 4 out of 5 stars now did not change my opinion. Before I get into the review, you may notice things look a little different. I'm only using my ring light right now. It's going on 10 o'clock at night, so there's no light coming in from outside. And I just decided to see how it looked with just the ring light. Let me know what you think. Anyway, let's get into The Nest. So, what we have here is Yarkey Island, which is in the Cape Cod, and we are introduced to the island itself. We get a bit of geography, and then we start meeting the characters. And Yarkey is filled with all sorts of interesting characters. It's a touristy place in the summer, and the locals um, aren't they aren't mean to tourists and things, but they are a little insular. And if you've say you moved to Yarkey and you've lived there for 20 years, you're still considered a new person on the island. So it's that kind of place, and um, we get a little geography, get a little bit about the people, and we meet Elias Johnson. He's a boat captain, and his granddaughter Elizabeth Carr is visiting for the summer. She's brought her friend Bonnie, and Bonnie's going out on a picnic, and some things happen. So right off the bat, we get stuff happening. Now, we know based on this cover, there's a little close up of sweet little cockroach. We know that it's cockroaches. But as things start to happen, the people on the island don't know that it's cockroaches. The rats in the dump have been acting strange, so they think maybe it's the rats that are causing some problems. We don't know what's going on. Uh, so after a few incidents, Elizabeth Carr's father is a professor at Cambridge. They call him, and he can't come out, but he's going to send his assistant, who's a biologist. He's going to come out because they think maybe the new pesticides have something to do with what's going on. So they send out this guy. Elizabeth used to have a crush on him when she was a kid, but he was involved with his lab partner, for lack of a better way to put it. Maybe was he? Um, so this woman, who's also a scientist, and I'll get into that. Eventually, he calls for her. She's going to come to the island, and there's some punk ass kids that have come to the island causing trouble. So all these different people and things are going to escalate, and eventually, you know, again, we know it's roaches. They're going to figure out it's roaches. And these are no ordinary roaches. They're bigger. They're not giant. They're not super car-sized roaches. I think the biggest one they mention is 8 or 10 inches long, maybe 12. But they're bigger, stronger, faster, and hungrier. So this is, I think it's very well written. It's very interesting. I love anybody who knows my channel knows that my favorite subgenre of horror is killer animals. Coincidentally, wearing my Squirm Killer Worms t-shirt. So I'm on board for a book like this. It moves at a good pace. There are some info dump spots, especially with the scientists who are talking about biology and genetics and cockroaches and rats and evolution and all these different things. So we have parts where they're lecturing essentially the locals on what could be causing what's going on, theorizing about things, explaining the tests that they're doing. But it doesn't, for me, it didn't get bogged down. I enjoyed that scientific stuff. And the kills, the craziness moves along at a quick pace, very much like, well, a lot of these killer animal stories or movies. You're going to get a kill and then some other stuff and then a kill and then some other stuff and then a kill. And there are some great, gory, disgusting kills. There's some very unexpected kills. There are kills that are going to bother some people, but I'm like, hell yes, let's do it. So it's very much my type of book. It's also very much of the 80s. Elias Johnson at one point, when sending his granddaughter and her friend out of the room, smacks him on the backside. And I assume it doesn't say on the back, it says the backside. Where I come from, that's the butt. So you got this old man smacking these young ladies on the butt. And I don't have enough fingers to count how many times they refer to Dr. Lindstrom, I believe her name is, as the lady scientist. I'm taking a quick look here to see. Yes, Wanda Lindstrom. She's described as looks of a supermodel or a movie star, and just constantly, the lady scientist said this, the lady scientist said that. There is a point where one of the characters thinks, wow, she's really smart and she's really good at her job. Maybe I shouldn't focus on how good looking she is. But a lot of just the lady scientist, when they just as easily could just say Dr. Lindstrom or Wanda. But so again, very much the 80s. Excuse me. But overall, I very much enjoyed this. As I said, it's the writing is clear, concise, moves along at a decent pace. Some people may feel it gets bogged down a little bit in the science or in the geographical descriptions. I enjoy it. I enjoy the characters. You do have there's a guy, this rich guy that's investing in the marina, and he is analogous maybe to the mayor from Jaws, because I don't think he's quite as bad, but he doesn't want word to get out that something's going on. He doesn't want to evacuate. He doesn't want to panic because it might scare off the investors. It might scare off tourists that eventually are going to be bringing in their tourist dollars. So reminded me of the mayor from Jaws. But the Yarkies, the locals, very interesting characters. And really the only people you're not gonna be rooting for, I think, are the punks that came to the island. Everybody else, I mean, not everybody's gonna make it, but I think you're gonna be hoping that all of these people make it. They're not. Look, that's not a spoiler. It's a killer cockroach book. Um, so yeah, 4 out of 5 stars. I really liked it. It's killer animals eating people, really gross scenes, um, and oh, there is a kind of a love triangle. There's some relationship stuff that I think was a little too melodramatic, and that's one of the things that keeps this from being a 5 out of 5. Is that might be the biggest reason it's not a 5 out of 5. I'm like, come on, we don't need this melodrama. Come on. Not quite as bad as in Jaws, when you spend I don't know how many pages just dealing with Brody's wife and her affair. But it's a little too melodramatic for my taste. All right, I think I've covered everything. It's well written with interesting characters, great kill scenes. There's some twists and turns. It's definitely of the 80s, a little too melodramatic in some parts. 4 out of 5 for The Nest by Gregory A. Douglas. Now, all of that being said, the book was made into a movie called The Nest. This is the Blu-ray from Scream Factory, and I've already recorded this video once. I wanted to record it before I watched the movie so I didn't get things mixed up. But while I was watching the movie, which I was doing after recording the first time, I was thinking about the original recording and decided to redo it. So here we are. I've tried my best. I'm 100% sure I did not mix anything up from the book and the movie. But having watched the movie now, I will say it's, again, very much of its time. I can't see in this light the copyright date, but there is very little of the book in the movie. Killer cockroaches, you've got that. You have a character named Elias Johnson. He's the mayor, and his daughter's name is Elizabeth. I think the sheriff's name might be the same, but the sheriff is a secondary character in the book, and he's the main character in the movie. Where the cockroaches came from, completely different, and some crazy stuff that happens at the end of this movie absolutely came out of nowhere. Not even close to anything like it in the book. I really enjoyed the movie. It's not a masterpiece, but it's a great killer cockroach movie with some amazing stuff that happens at the end. Absolutely insane. So, as much as I recommend the book, I take a little bit off of that recommendation and put it on this. If you get a chance to see this, if you like killer animal movies, you're not looking for a masterpiece like Jaws. It's not the best killer animal movie I've ever seen, but I absolutely enjoyed it. So there's that. Now, excuse me. The last time I did a series like this was F. Paul Wilson's Secret History of the World. And I would review each book, and then I would talk about how they're all connected, because that entire series of 30, 40, I don't know how many books, I read them in chronological order by story, not release date. And I would review the book, and then I would talk about how it tied in with everything else. This series, just talking about the paperbacks from hell that have been published by Valancourt Books, there's nothing to tie these books together, except for this little label on the corner. But they're not related to each other in any way. So I was trying to think of something to do that would make this different than just a normal low budget review show review. And what I've come up with so far is book recommendations. So, for this one, For the Nest by Gregory A. Douglas, I would recommend, if you're a fan of this, if you like this kind of stuff, I would recommend The Rats by James Herbert. It is about killer rats, and it is a fantastic book. It's the first in a trilogy. The second book is Lair. The third book is Domain. I have all three, but I've only read The Rats so far. Great killer rat stuff. And then the other recommendation I would make is Slugs by Sean Hudson, and it's killer slugs. There's a second book or a sequel. Can I call it a series? 2 books? There's a sequel called Breeding Ground. Again, I have both books. I've read Slugs. I have not read Breeding Ground. But killer rats, killer slugs to go with your killer cockroaches. I could go over so many killer animal books. Again, my favorite subgenre in horror, but I think I'll leave it there. And once again, I'm going to have to do something I did the first time because I don't learn from my mistakes. I want to talk about or tell you what the next book is. Now, in that introductory video, in the description of the video, I listed every single book, but I forgot to check. Okay, so the next book in the series that I will be covering is When Darkness Loves Us by Elizabeth Engstrom. And so, as I said in my introductory video, I'm going to read at least one of these a month, which means you should, well, depending on what I read in between, you should be getting at least one of these videos every month until I've read through all of them. I assume before I'm finished, some new ones will have come out. But that's what the next one is, if you want to read along. And if you have any suggestions for what I can do for this particular series, Valancourt Books, Paperbacks from Hell, what I can do for this particular series to differentiate it from a regular low-budget review show review, let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think of this aesthetic with just the ring light. Let me know about that in the comments below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put those in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. We try to be polite here on my channel. Please like, share, and subscribe, all the usual YouTube stuff. And if you'd care to follow me on other social media, my Twitter is @Ronin5757. My Instagram, where I post pictures of books, comic books, board games, and fuzzy animals, is ErikSmith5757. That's Eric with a K, ERIKSMITH 5757. And if you're on Blue Sky, I am @ELSmith. That's all I have for you this time, so until next time, read more books.